Everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Talking into Infinity, a Dream Theater-centric podcast. I am your host, John. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, the CMSnetwork.com, and the CMS Network Rumble page. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. If you are looking for video replays of the show, simply visit our YouTube channel or the YouTube channel of the CMS Network. And if you're looking for audio replays of the show, simply Google Talking into Infinity podcast, and we are on any number of audio platform audio podcast platforms that you could think of. After that nice fumble, let me bring on somebody else who likes to fumble his words, that being my esteemed co-host, Mr. Brian Hendrickson. How's it going, man?
Great to see you, Jim. This is going to be an exciting show.
Very well played, man.
Yeah, it's been a while. When did we last do a show? I feel like it's been so we did a show when they broke the single news, right? But we haven't done much since then, so it's kind of been a while here.
And that wasn't even really a normal show. I was thinking that myself, like when the last time we did a quote-unquote normal show was. It's been like a month and a half or something.
Well, usually normal means we're both sober, so that's not going to qualify here. I'm already into my my translucent, my green. So we call this this is my Franken mug, and it's always got some kind of concoction in here. This is actually pretty normal. It's just your kind of your standard margarita, the cheapest tequila, of course, I could buy, which is like $7 a bottle, you know, with the premix. Then I throw the premix, and then it has the alcohol too. So for about probably $1.75. I got to.
That's not too bad, Brian. I hate to cut you off, but we have some breaking news.
Okay.
On Talking into Infinity, we have a special guest we haven't seen in forever. Sarcasmo Assholio is tuning in. It says, "Happy Halloween, boys." Sarcasmo, great to see you, man. It's been forever. So, yeah, great to see you, dude. All right, so we got a couple other things. Doug McCauley, what's up, John? Great to see you, Doug. I'm sure Brian, is included in that comment as well. Ali's Studio. Hey, John, happy birthday from Ali's Studio. How is Night Terror from Dream Theater? We'll get to that here in a minute. I do have a couple thoughts I wanted to give. But back to you, $1.75, and you're kind of buzzing.
Yeah, I'm not doing bad here. So I get the kind, I forget the name of it. It's the kind that has the sombrero for the cap. You seen those?
Oh,
El Toro.
God, yeah.
I think it's El Toro. Yeah. It
Yeah.
is. No, it is. In all joking aside, it is expensive. I think it's like over almost $10 for a full bottle. So I do not scrimp when it comes to tequila. Definitely.
Well played. Well played. Yeah, I've had a couple drinks myself. It's we're in the heart of busy season at work, and so it's been extremely stressful. Steph and I had to go to court today. We had a small claims thing that we were filing against somebody, so we had to do that, which I wanted no part of. But we had to do it. So I was in court today, and it was very interesting. Very busy at work, and I just felt like having a few drinks and kind of hanging out and relaxing a little bit more than usual tonight on the show. So, yeah, Brian and I are both drinking a little bit tonight. So this is like would we call this a pre-fan hangout?
Yes, definitely.
I don't. Okay.
Happy
seriously?
Halloween, by the way, man.
Yeah. Happy Halloween to you too. And fuck you for your comment in the chat, which I will not put on the screen.
What comment in the chat? I don't even know how to do comments in the chat.
Big Al Smasher. Great to see you, man. He says, "Hey, John, happy Halloween from Petri Studio." Nice. Appreciate you tuning in, man. So obviously tonight, what we're going to be doing is talking about. It's actually kind of a Chastity Crawley. Great to see you. She says pre-drinking into infinity. Yes, this is a warm up. This is a warm up.
What is pre-drinking? Is that before you really start drinking? You just drink a little bit less before you start drinking more, or
well, she's talking about like this is like pre-fan hangout. So Chastity coined the phrase "drinking into infinity" is the show title.
That's true
for the fan hangout. So this is this is like the pre-season for drinking into infinity. So yeah. So now a couple things that we wanted to get to before we get to our topic, which tonight is, Brian and I think have different versions of how we look this up, but the original intent was to do best hard rock or heavy metal songs from Halloween movie soundtracks. And that's what I did. And I only took songs from movies that I've seen. I think, Brian, you just basically took Halloween themed hard rock and heavy metal songs. Am I correct?
No, I didn't. I ended up you doing your idea. I still got a decent amount, but yeah, we can do my idea on another show.
Okay. Yeah, we can do
Halloween.
That. Yeah, next Halloween. I see, dude. I like doing Halloween shows during October though. On my other show, the Nerf Herder Council, my brother and I always do. We make sure to do 2 Halloween episodes, and it's always a blast. Like last week we talked about Terrifier 3, and we were just talking about gore and all this crazy shit. So I'd love to do that on here too. So
what's your all-time favorite horror movie?
Oh man, all-time favorite horror. That's difficult. I've actually never thought about that. I have a lot of big favorites. Hellraiser 1 and 2 are huge for me. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is big, and the first one. I mean, those are like stock. I really, really love the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. So yeah, I've never really thought. For me, it's the gorier the better. I'm not into like the psychological horror is great, and but for me, like what I really like is when shit just gets disgusting. So for example, like one of my all-time favorites is Human Centipede Part 2 because it's so bad they had to make it black and white, and I just love the concept, which for those of you who don't know, Human Centipede 1 is obviously what it is, 3 people, sewn together, ass to mouth. And so many people, and I was one of them, said, "Oh man, when you heard the concept, you go to watch it, and you're going, oh, it's going to be horrible." But then you come out of it going, "Oh, that's not nearly as bad as I thought it was." And so the director heard all of those remarks of, "Oh, it's not as bad as I thought." So he said, he literally said, "Fuck you, check this out." Right. And the second one is specifically geared to like gross people out. And it is still the only horror movie that I've had to get up and walk away from my seat during watching. I was watching it, back when I was living in Hinckley and I was single, and I, had this big kind of like my living room was basically like a rehearsal studio for pretty much. It's a whole other story. But anyway, so I'm sitting in front of this 70-inch television watching this thing. And the part where he starts snipping the knees, I finally had to get up and I was still watching the screen, but I was like, oh my God, this is so bad. So
we watched all of the first 2, and the third one was it wasn't even necessarily what they were like. The main sheriff guy or whatever was so disgusting and so just I don't know. I don't even know what the word is to describe this guy. We actually had to turn it off halfway through. I couldn't even justify watching it any longer. And I love the first 2. I thought the first 2 were great.
Yeah.
You're right. They're totally disgusting and stuff. But
the third is terrible, isn't it? It's got one good kill, and the rest is just so stupid.
Yeah, it's the sheriff basically just acting like a complete a-hole the whole time.
Yeah.
It's really annoying. And the stuff he says and stuff, it's like, oh my God, this guy somebody would literally just stab him in the face. Like if he just talked to people.
Yep.
The way he's talking to. But honestly, for me, the original Omen from I think it's 1976.
Oh, okay. All right.
And the remake where they basically remade the same movie.
Sure.
I think they did a great job. I don't know. There's just something about okay, they're putting, they're putting the devil spawn into this human person, and the backstory of all that, and when they show, especially in the remake, when they show this comet's shooting through the sky and they're seeing this stuff and all this stuff's adding up and they're like, oh my God, they're freaking out, all these, all these prophecies are coming true. I don't know. That kind of stuff just gives me chills. I mean, I don't necessarily believe in all of it, but But there is a certain part if you do kind of believe it, you're like, oh my god, this is scaring the crap out of me, you know.
Right. Well, let's get to some comments here. Let the chat chime in, and then I do have something personal I want to get to, and it's very quickly, and then we'll get to some Dream Theater news, and then get to the topic. But speaking of The Omen, Doug McCauley, great to see you as always, man. He says that was a great book, The Omen. Let's see. So, all right. So Sarcasmo Assolio says Dream Warriors, wrong movie. Okay, did I misspeak? Okay, so Ali Studio says A Nightmare on Elm Street. Alex Neal, great to see you, man. He says The Shining is one of the best ever. I'm actually going to call bullshit on that one, Alex. And the reason I'm going to call bullshit is because I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and Stephen King hates that adaptation. And I have never watched it for that reason, but I know the main points of contention about it. And the ending is so far off of the original novel that I can't. It's crap. Like the ending of the original novel is a very emotional ending. It's very climactic, and the one in the movie is just terrible. So
you have to divorce yourself from the book to watch that, which is hard if you're a fan, because
I was going to say I can't.
If you know nothing about the book whatsoever, it's an absolute cinematic masterpiece, man. I mean, the way it's filmed, you know, the all of the scenes and like the music in it, the acting is amazing, you know. But I know what you're saying because I kind of know the story. I've never actually sat and read it, but I do know enough of the whatever. But if you don't know anything about the book and you just watch it as a movie on its own, it is absolutely incredible.
Sure. Yeah, I see, and I'm one of those that I can't. Like I
get that angle.
Yeah, for me, it's like, and you know, not to plug my other show again, but like on the Nerf Herder Council, we talk all the time about like adaptations, and I'm just one of those people that I'm like, you know, the book is almost universally better than the movie in pretty much every instance you can think of, right? So it's like, don't screw with it, and when they screw with it, it pisses me off. So I'm one of those guys. So Big Al Smasher, Jason versus Freddy. All right, that's a good one. Doug McCauley says soundtrack for The Crow, done. Maybe Jason versus Freddy 2, some decent songs on there. Ali Studio, Annabelle. Alex Neal with a great take. The hacksaw scene in Terrifier was really hard to watch for the first time. Alex, I would substitute the word hard for awesome. So let's change your comment to the hacksaw scene in Terrifier was really awesome to watch for the first time. Let's see here. Yep. Johan Alexanderson, good to see you, man. Here's Johnny.
Yeah.
Doug McCauley, isn't The Shining a Christmas movie? No, it's not. God damn it. We're not getting into that. Again, the Nerf Herder Council, reference number 3. We did a whole thing about what's a Christmas movie and what's not. All about Die Hard 2 years ago, and it was awesome.
I don't even think there's a Christmas tree in The Shining, not that I remember. I know it's set in the winter at one point, but that's not.
Yeah. Johan says, I haven't read the book. Think I will give it a read. Yeah, dude, definitely. It's an awesome book. It's Stephen King's. It's only his 3rd novel ever. Like he's got bangers right out the rip. Like his first book was Carrie, second book was Salem's Lot, and the third one is The Shining. Technically, he wrote The Gunslinger, the first one, before Carrie, but it was like he didn't release it till later. So it depends on how you look at it.
Did you see the? We just watched the other day the new Salem's Lot on Max. Have you seen that or no?
I'm holding off because the review said it was shit.
Okay, I actually thought it was. I thought it was decent for what it was. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it's amazing, but
everything that I read said that it rushes the story so much, and that doesn't surprise me because it's like 2 hours long.
Yeah, I wish they would have done like they did. TNT did that series, which I thought was
yes.
You know, you probably hated it, but
it's not great. But at least it's got more.
Yeah, I agreed. I thought they could have done, you know, make it a 2-parter at least or something. You know.
Yeah. Tom Cullen, hey guys, what's up? Good to see you, man. I've actually been messaging with Tom. Tom actually got married recently, so congratulations, brother. All right, so Doug McCauley, are you a Nerf herder? Because I don't think you can use that word otherwise. That is actually in the intro of the Nerf Herder Council if you go on our audio episodes, man. So yes. All right, so let's get something personal real quick, and then let's get to some Dream Theater news. So I got to play the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this past Saturday. And I just wanted to bring that up, not for myself, but for my guys and Brother Believe Me, because when we booked it, it was actually a wedding for the chief financial officer of the company that I work for. And those guys were like shitting themselves. They were like, "You got us a show where?" And they've been posting video and pictures, and they were just absolutely beside themselves to play there. And for me, like, I played there with my original band years ago. So I'd been on that stage and been in the room and everything. I mean, it's still awesome to do, but it's something that I had done. And those guys were just freaking out. And I didn't realize it until yesterday that, for me, I can go to the Rock Hall anytime I want. I just drive down the street like 40-45 minutes. Like, it's in my hometown of Cleveland. I can go there. These guys can't. I don't know if they've even been to the Rock Hall before, much less been able to play the stage. And so it just, and that night they were having such an amazing time, and it was great to see. And thinking about it afterwards, like how much it really hit them, like it was just a really, really cool moment. So I just wanted to bring it up on the show because it's like you don't get to do things like that very often. And I'm just super happy for the guys that I jam with, Brian and Jason and Mars and Jonah. They're just the nicest guys. And I'm just super happy for them. And usually like we have a drink together before the show, and we kind of, party a little bit, but we kept it very close to the vest, obviously, because it was the Rock Hall and it was a coworker of mine, who's, the third most powerful person in the company. And the owner was there with his wife. So the co-owners of the company were there too. So I couldn't make an ass of myself. So I couldn't have a drink with them that night, but I poured myself a shot here tonight. So doing a shot to all my guys in BBM, Jonah, Jason, Brian, and Mars. And if you guys have a drink out there, raise them up. We'll do a social 1, 2, 3 social. That's a stage thing we do. And here's to my BBM guys. I'm glad they had a great time, and what a fucking blast we had on Saturday. So cheers to all you guys out there.
Dude, that's awesome, man. I also wanted to say cheers here to a great friend of the show of ours, Sean Faust.
Oh yes,
I'm not going to put the details on here, and if he wants to, we'd love to have you come on if you want to chime in or whatever. But he recently lost his mom. Sounds like it was a tough battle, but cheers,
yes,
buddy. Hang in there best you can.
Yep.
As someone who's seen what this disease can sort of at the beginning stages, what it can do, I'm not looking forward to what it's going to be towards the end with some family people that I'm dealing with on this. But
yeah. So what Brian's saying is that
you, bud.
Yeah. So the disease that Sean's mom was dealing with, Brian's family is now dealing with as well. So, so hearts out to Sean. He's a great friend of the show. I'm actually going to be meeting up with him in New York City next March for the Radio City Music Hall show. Oh, nice. Real quick, any of you guys out there, if you're going to the New York City show, shoot us a Facebook message or send us an email at talkingintoinfinity@gmail.com, because whoever's going, I'd like to set up a hangout, because Sean and I are meeting up. So we're gonna find a bar real close to Radio City, and we're gonna get together. And if there's any of you guys out there that would love to hang out, I'd love to meet you guys in person and hang out. So yeah, moving on to other stuff, which this is not going to be very upbeat as well, but so I just obviously the most recent Dream Theater news is the fact that Mike Portnoy lost his sister a half hour before their show a couple days ago. And I had read all the stuff about, Mike was crying. And for those of you guys who don't know, Mike was obviously like very close to his sister, and he knew that, it was very close to her passing. She was suffering from cancer. And about a half hour before they went on stage, I want to say it was in Munich, he got the news that she had passed and went through with the show. And they played Spirit Carries On. And I had read the stuff about, Mike saying he was crying the whole time. And then obviously, I don't know how much of this you paid attention to, Brian, but Petrucci came up and during the final solo sat on the other side of the kit with Mike. So Mike was on the right side of his kit. So John sat on the left side stool and did the solo with him. And, people, Mike had said I was crying the whole time, and people had said that John cried and stuff. And I just watched a video about a half hour ago, right before we went on. Someone got a really great, like kind of like third row perspective and zoomed in and everything. And I got to tell you, man, the reason I'm bringing this up is, first of all, major condolences to Mike Portnoy for the loss of his sister. fuck cancer. That is just absolutely a bastard. I have a huge family history of it, and I'm sure, Brian, you've been touched by it as well. And man, there's been so much online lately about, the tour and people complaining about the set list and complaining about Night Terror and complaining about James and all these different things, and thankfully it's kind of died down a little bit and people are finally getting into the spirit of, they're back. They're kicking ass. Like we've got the, quote unquote classic lineup back. And I just, watching that video, I think what struck me the most about this, Brian, was, you look at these guys and James was trying to intro the song and he was stumbling. You could tell he really didn't know what to say because they all knew Samantha, obviously, from back in the day. I mean, they've been basically family for 40 years. And, when James, we all know during the Spirit Carries On, he does like the hand wave. He gets the crowd waving left to right. And dude, the guy was focused in on James, and the hurt on his face was unbelievable. And then he zoomed in on, Portnoy and Petrucci behind the drums, and John was obviously crying. And dude, the emotion that these guys were feeling, and it just, it kind of, to me, I just hope that all Dream Theater fans see this. And whenever you're bitching about set lists and, performances and all these different things we can bitch about, I just hope that Dream Theater fans all see this and remember that these, the band themselves are it's a fantastic band to be a fan of. Musically, they're incredible. And we know they're great guys, but they are incredible guys. And I just hope that, this kind of resets people and makes you think like, dude, you know what? These are fucking great people. And I'm a fan of, guys that not only can play, but they're good people. Like you can root for them as humans. And how many bands can you say that about? Because I mean, think about it. If you're a Megadeth fan, Dave Mustaine's a dick. You know what I mean? If you're a Slayer fan, like, Kerry King's a dick and all this stuff. But the guys in Dream Theater, they are, incredibly nice. They give everything to their fans. And it's just, I just hope people see that and really kind of get back into the spirit of why we love this band. Like, sorry to kind of get on a soapbox, Brian, but it really struck me when I watched that. So have you seen any of this stuff?
Yeah, I did it. It's a powerful thing. And I'm trying to think, and you and I, and it's, especially me just plays, some dumb cover bands. And I'm trying to think, 20 minutes before I'm supposed to go on, I'm not playing or doing anything remotely as complicated as what Portnoy has to do, but I don't know if that matters. It's just, how do you focus yourself, to just, I don't know, man. That's got to be a really tough thing to do. Like, so, I mean, if you find out about 2 hours earlier, are you even able to go up there and play? And there's also this thing too. And like you said, yeah, I think we all have a history of some cancer, we know somebody, and for me, it was a grandfather and an aunt. And there's this horrible thing of like, you're so sad, but at the same time, there's this huge sense of relief because the person isn't suffering anymore. So how do you juxtapose and wrestle with that? Like, man, I'm almost, in a way, you're glad because no one wants to see someone sit there and go through that, but at the same time, you're sad because of what a horrible situation it was. And I just can't imagine trying to go on and. This isn't like a comedian going on, and well, that would be even harder because you got to be funny, I guess. But right. I'm just saying, like, going out there for, I don't know, doing something for 45 minutes or an hour or 35-minute set or whatever, an opener. Like, you're going out there and playing 3 freaking hours of what is already an emotional thing because you're back with the band. Like, this whole thing is like one huge big, like, oh my God, it's been 40 years now that we've done this together. Minus a short break, but. And then you throw this on top of it, and it's like, man, that's just some really heavy shit. And I don't care how strong you are emotionally or how cool you think you are or whatever. That's going to nail you every time, man. I mean, that's going to hit anyone right here. I mean, so, but yeah, I don't know, man. The fan boards, the message boards, it'll all calm down for probably about 2 weeks, and then it'll be back to, right. It'll likely be back to normal.
Yeah. No, I mean, dude, you make amazing points. And I think, like you said, like, you were saying, like, imagine you find out like 2 hours before. Like that to me, like it's like you have a little bit of time to process. He found out a half hour before, which means he's into his, pre-show ritual. He's, warming up his muscles. He's like kind of like, hitting the pads and everything. So he's like in show mode and then finds out. So you are already, ready to go. And all of a sudden you just get, the hell knocked out of you. And, I can unfortunately relate, not quite as much as this, but I think we talked about, when my dad passed on January 19th, I had a show the next day.
Yeah.
And I went and I sang, and believe me, I was, obviously as heavy-hearted as you can imagine. I mean, better than anybody, Brian. And I was getting through, and it was cool, and we got to, but it was always in the back of my mind, and it was, don't break. You know what I mean? And then we got to the last song, and Man in the Box is kind of like my quote unquote signature tune. And I went to hit that last chorus where you're just like, yeah, my, and I hit the first second or two and then just cracked and broke down. And, so I unfortunately know how difficult it is to do that. But to your point, it's even more difficult for him because the complexity of what he has to do, and he's leading the whole band, so he's got to do that too. And I just thought it was, just incredible to see how those guys rallied around him. And what a time for it to happen, I guess. Like he's back with the band. It's one of the first few shows. Like you said, it's already incredibly emotional for them to be back with him. And of all times for this to happen, as unfortunate as it is, at least it's in the midst of this incredibly positive, emotional, environment. So, God bless him for that. So,
yeah, I'm thinking too, like the 2 hours before, like I almost think, it's all relative, right? But that's 2 hours to sit around and think about this before you play. You don't want your mind doing that, I don't think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's a stupid thing to even sort of debate, I suppose. But but I'm just trying to think, the more your mind has to sit there and think about before you got to go do something like that, probably the worse off it's gonna. It's probably just gonna tear you up inside, man. It's probably gonna physically make you sick too, I would almost think.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I give him all the credit in the world and all the blessings in the world. That's just wow. So let's get to a couple comments, then we can get to our topic tonight. Chastity Crawley says cancer can go to hell. Fuck yeah. Completely agree with that. Zabur 96, great to see you, man. By the way, Zabur, I got to do an intro at the Rock Hall in German. So the bride's family was German, and they asked me, could I speak German? And I said, yes, I can. And so I typed out a speech. I had it translated, and I did a speech in German last week. You would be proud. He said, it was in Croatia, not Munich. RIP to Portnoy's sister, and best wishes to him and his family. Thank you for the correction. Appreciate you, bro. Kale McLeish says, I hate to say, as much as it makes me a bastard for thinking it, I hope she gets an epic on the next album like his dad got Best of Times and Mom got Change of Seasons. But, Kale, that's a good point because he has memorialized his family. So let's see if that happens. That's I don't think it makes you a bastard for thinking that, dude. I think that's a great idea. It'd be cool if that happened. Alex Neal, it must have been very emotional for those in the audience too. Seeing someone grieving on stage is very humbling. Yeah, I like I said, Alex, I went through it myself this past January, and I was at a Seven Dust show back. I want to say it was on the Animosity tour, and LaJohn Witherspoon, his brother, was killed in a shooting. And they took a break from their tour, and I think it was either their first show back or second show back. It might have been. I'm pretty sure it's the first. But the first show back was the Cleveland show I was at, and they did a song called Prayer. And he was like sobbing the whole time. And it was just, all of us were just crying our eyes out. So yeah, it's very emotional for the crowd as well. Doug McCauley, well said, John. They really are amazing dudes. And real quick, not to bring some DT fan pages are disgusting. Nothing but negative BS. Yes, that's right, Doug. 100%. Chastity says, some fans need to realize that the members of DT are actual people, not just musicians. They have a life away from the band. Completely agree. Sarcasmo Asholio says they are a brotherhood. My daughter teared up watching the video, and maybe I did too, but no, I didn't. Shut up, Sarcasmo. Yes, you did. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Man, so you guys are, yep. Doug says breaking is okay, John. You got to feel the feels. Appreciate that, Doug. That's definitely, I really didn't have a choice at that point. I was hitting the note and it just hit me, and I was like, yeah, this is failing. And I was like, and I kind of just hung my head and sat there, and everyone knew why. So, because I dedicated to my dad, so I appreciate that, man. JG3, great to see you, man. Thanks for tuning in. Says, I think maybe what helps is how close Petrucci, Portnoy, and the guys are nowadays. They're basically family. It was really emotional thing. I hope Mike knows we're keeping him in our thoughts. I think he does, Jay. I think it's been very publicized and everything. I mean, he's getting such an outpouring of love on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. Johan Alexanderson, I usually play better when I'm sad or angry. For me, it's angry. When I'm pissed off, I just go for it. But sad, that's difficult for me, Johan. And last one, Alex Neal says, my sister performed a gig the night our grandma died, and she found it very cathartic to have an outlet for the grief. Alex, I actually did that too. My grandmother passed on a Friday, and I had a gig that night. And that afternoon, my mother, so she lived in Columbus, which, for those who aren't familiar, Brian and I live in the Cleveland area. Columbus is about 2 hours south. And my mom drove up 2 hours, and my grandma, like, she'd been in there for a few weeks, but it was, thankfully for her, it was very quick. And I left work. I texted my brothers and said, hey, it's happening. And I got there, and I was the first person to get there. My mom, who's like the strongest person you'll ever imagine, like, she is just, my mother's an angel on earth. Let's put it that way. And I ran towards, my grandma's room, and my mom was standing there, and she looked at me, and I said, Ma, and she just came to me and just crumbled into my arms. And that night I had to go sing, and it was so cool because my wife, Steph, man, this is turning into like a fucking therapy session, Brian, but we'll get to the topic next, I promise. But my wife, Steph, had, she knew that my grandma wasn't doing good, and we'd been going through some other stuff recently. And so it was, the show that night was going to be very cathartic for me. And she, unbeknownst to me, had invited all of my friends to come out. And it was, for most of them, like a 45-minute drive at least to come to this show. And usually it was a dinky cover band that drew maybe 10 people, but it was fun. It was a classic rock band and shit. Brian actually remembers the Lenten Fish special, the Dangerous Toys hat.
Oh yeah.
And I get to this show in Akron, and I'm like, man, gonna do it for Grandma. And there's like 40 of my friends there, and I was like, what the hell? And Steph, a bunch of them, she had just said, I was going through a hard time, and can you come out to the show? And several of them had said, yeah, we'll try and make it. Well, then she texted them when my grandma passed that day, and they all showed up. And it was just incredible to see that. And then also my brother's girlfriend at the time, she was such a sweetheart, man. Like, she literally bought a round of Jaeger shots for the entire crowd, which was like 60 Jaeger shots. And she dropped a couple $100 just so we could all do a shot for my grandma. And so, yeah, I've dealt with that too, man. And so, RIP to Samantha, and any of you guys have suffered a loss like this. Sorry to be emotional, but it's kind of on the docket. So Brian, now that we've gone through that, why don't we get to slashing and death and horror and man, oh man. Oh, look at hold on one second. Oh, no, Brian. Yeah, sorry, Brian. I will put your comment up there.
I don't know who that is. It's weird.
Yeah. The spirit carries on and on and on and on. Thanks. That's good. Shit on the sentiment, you dick. I was trying to bring up Sergio's comment. Sergio Santos, great to see you, man. Thank you for tuning in. He says, good night. I am from Brazil.
Oh, nice.
Great to see you, man. Thank you for tuning in. Much appreciated, man. Man. All right, guys. So let's get to the topic. Sorry, but it's only 35 minutes into the show, but we're nothing if not real, right?
Right.
We're not fake on this show. All right. So Brian, so you have 10 songs. I have 10 songs. And I'm going to put you in solo mode so that you can explain where you are coming from with because originally.
Oh, God. No,
originally.
I don't have enough to talk about.
Well, dude, you had a different idea for how you wanted to pick, the songs that you have on your list. So explain why you changed your mind. All right, I'm going to mute myself and.
Well, I changed my mind mostly to fit the format and see to try to fit in with kind of more what you're doing. I figure we have enough shows where you do one thing horribly and I do one thing amazing. So let's just have something where we both do something horribly. Yeah, I've got 10 songs here. Some of them aren't actual songs. Some of them are actually probably the entire soundtrack. Full disclosure. But I thought what would be cool is also go through and sort of talk about the movie from each song or soundtrack just for a tad, just to give a little bit of backstory, thoughts on the movie if we've both seen it, whatever, and whatnot. I thought what better night to do it than on Halloween. Speaking of which, the Rob Zombie Halloween, the first one absolutely amazing. The second one is a complete abomination and should never be allowed to be shown again. As for the 3 remakes, the first one was okay, and the last one, Halloween Ends, was okay. Halloween Kills is terrible, by the way. But in looking through my list here, there's actually bands on here we have, I don't think, never discussed, or if we have, it's been very briefly. So that's going to be interesting as well. Also, most of them are from the 80s because I did not find a lot of movies from the 90s or the 2000s that have full soundtracks or rock tunes in them that I can talk about. So that's where we are.
All right. Yeah, mine are kind of interesting because I kept it to movies I've seen. And full disclosure, a couple of them I hated. One I only saw part of and was very drunk when I watched it. And there's a reason. That I actually watched even part of it, but
well, to clarify, I did see all of these movies as well, so I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not going that far out of the realm. I thought that would be really stupid.
Okay, all right. By the way, a little bit of promo for Kale here. It says actually tomorrow I'm playing Relay for Life, which is for Cancer Council Western Australia. I'm going to be pretty emotional having lost my grandfather to pancreatic cancer, and it's Ash's last gig. Well, good on you, Kale. There's nothing better than doing shows for charity, man. I actually just signed a contract yesterday. Brother Believe Me is doing for the 5th year in a row a Humane Society benefit in March, and we keep raising the bar. I pass around a bucket while I'm singing, and last year we set a record at $1,400 cash, and I'm trying to get up to 15 this year. So good on you, man. Yeah. So for mine, Brian, I mean, there is. Let me think. Yeah, there's a lot of 90s in here, but yeah, it's actually mostly 90s as well. Yeah, but I'm thinking that your 90s. Or 80. I'm sorry, 80s. I'm sorry. Yeah, actually, now that if you've got 90s, if you've got 80s, I've got mostly 90s. It looks like. Yes. All right. So this ought to be interesting. Okay. And real quick question: Did you rank them or did you just list them? Because I just listed them.
Yeah, this was something I couldn't really rank the way we're doing this. So.
All right, real quick, and then we'll get into it. Look at my buddy trying to get some free promo. This is my buddy Chris Mocked. I love you, Chris, man. So he does an amazing Star Wars show called Mocktails from the Cantina. Mocktails is spelled MACHTAILS because his last name is Mocked, MACHT. So he says Mocktails Live, Halloween show at 8 p.m. Central tonight. Dude, it's already after.
They have to leave in 50 minutes then to go to your show?
I don't think he understands that 8 p.m. Central is happening right now. What's he commenting on my show for when he's supposed to be live with his Halloween show? What are you doing, Mocked? Come on, dude.
Actually, it's only 7 p.m. Central time, so you really don't understand how time.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I was like, he's really cross promoting on my other show. Look at him go. So
we got 49 minutes to knock this out then and get over to Mocktails, I guess.
Right. Good Lord, we have been drinking, haven't we? All right, let me take the banner off the screen and get to something. I don't know why I put that on there. Huh. Wow, I wonder how that happened. Anyway, all right. So I think we both have the same song, obviously, on our list. I think we could save that till last. Are we in agreement on the one song that everyone would have on this list?
Yes.
Okay, we'll leave that till last. All right, I will let you go first. I've got a few that I know better than others, so I'm going to start with the ones for me that I don't know as well, but I still love. So I'll let you go first.
I'm going to go back to 1989. This is one of the, I don't want to say few. I have read a decent amount of Stephen King novels, but one of the few that was turned into a movie as well. I thought it was done well. The Ramones title song from Pet Sematary.
Okay, all right.
I mean, just a fun. I mean, what other band could do that song? Would you just think about it? You're like, I don't want to be buried in a pet cemetery. I mean, who does, right? I mean, really nobody.
Right.
I mean, but sometimes dead is better. But yeah, man, I love that. It's about, I don't know. Is it barely? It's a 3-minute song. It's a Ramones song. It's just great little groove to it. It's one of those songs where anyone, if you have any interest in trying to play a song on guitar at all, you could probably pick that up and learn it in 5 seconds, just like you could a lot of Ramones songs. But man, just a super cool song. The video is fun. I thought the movie was really solid. I think the book is great as well. They've tried to do a couple sequel. One of the sequels I think was hilariously bad.
Okay. Sorry, which one? Now, are you talking about the sequel or the remake?
So the sequel is hilariously bad with the who's the main like lockdown guy from Shawshank.
Oh, yeah. Clay, whatever is, yeah.
He's such a complete a-hole, man. He plays like the a-hole dad, and that just up to a T. Like he's just such a horrible human being in that movie,
right?
And it's a terrible movie too. But yeah, the prequels. I don't know. I think has there been 2 of them now, or is it just one? I thought I saw.
I don't know if it's a prequel. Real quick. Let's get a comment up here, Brian. Yeah. Check this out. So Stoyan Rashev, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correct. He says the show yesterday in Bratislava was amazing, dude. Thank you for tuning in. That's amazing. Stoyan, let us know where you're at in the world, because it's always amazing to like find out where people are watching from. By the way, Johan Alexanderson, I wouldn't mind getting buried in Pet Cemetery if it's cheaper.
The ground up there is sour. Yeah.
Dude, that movie's so good. Yeah, man, I have to be honest with you. I don't know anything about the prequels, because I know that the sequel obviously has Edward Furlong from Terminator 2 fame, and I've heard it's awful. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with it. And I saw the remake in the theater, and that is just a piece of shit. I mean, that. Oh, dude, like that's a perfect example of what we talked about earlier. Like where you change the book, like the whole part about Pet Sematary is that Gage, the little like 2-year-old or whatever, he's the one that gets killed, not the big sister who's like 10 years older. But in the remake, they change it to where the sister gets killed. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not nearly as horrific. I mean, Stephen King himself, fanboying a little bit here, knowing my knowledge, Stephen King himself said that Pet Sematary is the most terrifying novel to him that he's ever written, because it's about losing a child, and it's losing that young child that never has a chance to like experience anything. So when you substitute the older daughter who's experienced stuff, like, you just fuck the whole, the whole crux of the novel, like the whole emotion of it. Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know anything about the prequels, and I know the sequels, and then the remake is shit. So yeah. All right, so I will get to mine. Let's see, what order do I want to go in here? All right, well, I'm going to go with ones I don't know as well, but I still really enjoy. And again, these are all movies I've seen. So I'm going to start with a song from Ghoulies 2. I barely remember Ghoulies or Ghoulies 2, but it's a band that I've actually been familiar with throughout the years. Never really gotten into, but I like a few songs. And lately I'm kind of getting into, it's Wasp, Scream Until You Like It.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And to me, it's like, it's interesting to me because as I've gotten more into Wasp, and Brian, you would know way more about this than I would, but I always thought Wasp was kind of like a hair metal band, and, but they're almost like I don't know how to phrase it. Like their chord structures are very much like a standard rock and roll, like a kind of like old school, like kind of like bluesish in the bass. But Blackie Lawless, his singing voice is so unbelievably badass. And I mean,
Yeah.
this song is just, the only versions I could find on Amazon Music, which is the platform I listen to music on, were both live. And it's the chorus, scream until you like it. It's got that sing along thing, and it's just a driving with a standard chord progression, and it's just a great song. And I don't remember anything about Ghoulies 2 except for it was as worse than Ghoulies 1. And I love cheesy 80s movies, but Ghoulies was a little questionable. But yeah, I mean, it's a cool Wasp song, and and the thing that I appreciate about this one is that I think a lot of songs on soundtracks, Brian, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but they either are throwaway songs or they sound like throwaway songs.
Yeah.
This one doesn't really have that feel to it to me. I mean, it's a little simplified, I would think, but it's still a good tune. Like if this just kind of showed up in your Wasp playlist and you don't know where it was from, you'd be like, all right, I kind of dig this song. So
I've never seen Ghoulies or 2, and I've never heard this song. So now you've got me interested to check it out.
Okay, yeah.
Most things Wasp did, I thought were decent.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, who can't sing along to Wild Child? I mean,
yep.
There's that,
the whole Last Command, man. It's just like, I mean,
yeah,
that's just catchy as hell, heavy rock,
Yeah, I mean, and dude, Blackie Lawless's voice is just so awesome.
Yep.
And extra bonus points for the way his like stage setup, it keeps getting like a little bit taller and a little bit more shit in front of him to where you can't see what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah. That new mic stand, have you seen that? It's like there's 4 million things coming out of it.
That's exactly what I was talking about.
Like,
yeah,
what the
yeah.
hell is this thing? It used to just be like some skulls on it. Now I don't know what the hell's coming out of it.
Right. Yep. Cale McLeish, I'm going to call bullshit on myself for being a complete and utter failure. He says, how about Anthrax's cover of Antisocial in It? Cale, I can't even believe that I forgot that, because I love the new It movies and I love Anthrax. They're my top 5 favorite bands. I can't, you know what, Cale, I forget things all the time, and my wife will back this up. I'm like, I'll go to the store and I'll buy everything we need, and in the back of my mind it's nagging me like, I forgot something. What is it? And I get home and it's the most important thing. I'm like, shit, that's what I forgot. Anthrax, Antisocial, and It is what I fucking forgot for this show. So,
I honestly don't even remember it being in there, but I will say it was already on a great album, and I already thought it was a great song. So
thank you. Yes,
leaving it out, it's like,
yeah,
okay.
it was in the rock fight scene, if I'm remembering correctly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
So Mike's Musical Rehab, great to see you, man. He says, I'm going Love Kills from Vinnie Vincent Invasion, Nightmare on Elm Street 5. It's actually Nightmare on Elm Street 4, because that almost made my list. But great selection there.
Shit, I totally missed that one. I do like that song.
Yep, that's a great song.
Mark Slaughter on vocals on that one.
Yes. All right, man. So what's next on your list?
All right, I'm going to go full disclosure here. We're going to do a full soundtrack on this one. You probably already have. Well, maybe you have this. I don't know. Aiken would have this if he was on it. We got Fastaway Trick or Treat.
I was waiting to see if you would do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember the poster for this? So it was the greatest tagline ever.
Yep.
It was like, his fans won't let him die and he won't let them live, or whatever. It's like
Right.
That's like what it was. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, I was looking it up just out of curiosity. So this was actually their 4th album. A couple of tunes I do remember off of there: After Midnight, Tear Down the Walls. I didn't realize in looking at soundtrack though, they put the song Heft, which is actually it's like a 5-minute song on the first album. One of the cooler songs on their very first debut, which was
right.
Which is crazy because it's like 6 years before the movie and everything, or 4 years, whatever it is. But yeah, man, I mean, I thought that was a great movie for the time. Being a teenager and watching a movie like that, I don't know, it was just super fun to me, and I loved all the music, and the fact that a band can literally just crank out, like, other than the one, I think that might have been the only one that wasn't, that was on a previous album, just crank out 10 new songs, you know. Oh, well, here's a new album. Oh, by the way, it's going to be for the soundtrack too, you know.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't think this is their best album by far. I probably like the first album and maybe the third album the best, but just a lot of cool songs. I mean, they fit the mood perfectly, and I mean, I don't know what a better band for that time to probably do this is Fastway, because they're heavy enough, and they're not like too corny or whatever. Because you got to have a little bit of an edge to them, you know. But they're not like super scary or anything either.
Yeah. No, I mean it's I think, you know, I think you hit on it. Like they release a record, but it's also the soundtrack for a movie. Like I mean that's
Yep.
pretty badass, you know.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm not familiar with it, so I didn't choose anything from there, but it definitely came up. I was looking up like movies that have like heavy metal and hard rock, you know, songs on it or entire soundtracks and stuff. And that one is on every single list.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, the tagline is absolutely killer. So,
Yep.
no pun intended.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. Continuing on with stuff that I don't know quite as well, but still really enjoyed. I am going with Below the Bottom by Hatebreed, which is on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 soundtrack.
Okay.
There's not a lot to say here except for the fact that like Hatebreed is one of those bands for me. Like if a Hatebreed song comes on, I'm not turning it off. But am I listening to an entire Hatebreed record? No. Hatebreed to me is kind of like Green Day or those, you know, most of the like power punk bands where if you heard one song, you kind of heard them all. And so I like it a little bit at a time. And I think this is like a perfect microcosm of that. You know, it's fucking Hatebreed. It's like less than 3 minutes long. It's like, you know what you're getting. It's, you know, just, you know, with the overdriven guitars and,
Yep.
you know, the tight drum sound, and it's, you know, a heavy, slow, sludgy riff. I mean, it barely goes above the 5th fret. Like, it's just like, they were just like, yeah, like, you know, I don't know if this was on a record or if they just did this for, you know, a soundtrack, but it just sounds like, hey man, just do this for 2 minutes and 30 seconds in halftime, and we'll just throw it at them. And, you know, do the typical Hatebreed, like, I will overcome. You should be ashamed. Like, but I mean, you know, in little spurts, who doesn't love that? Like, you know,
dude, so have you heard his new solo album where he does all the duets with the famous metal dudes?
No, how is that? You know what?
Dude, the Chuck Billy song, you will lose your freaking mind.
No shit.
So
Okay.
good. So freaking good. So I listened to the one that's got him. I listened to the one that's got Zetro from Exodus.
Nice. Okay.
And there's one Phil Demmel does guitars on another one.
Oh, all right.
But yeah, man. I mean, that one with Chuck Berry. Or, I almost said Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry.
Yeah, you should hear him tear up Johnny Be Good, man. I mean, it's no My Ding-a-ling, but I mean, it sounds amazing. No, dude, it's really cool.
We're down in Louisiana. New Orleans.
The cover's badass though, because it's Injusta for All, and it has like, you know, it looks like the Justice thing, you know, like with the Statue of Liberty. But yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I'm Hatebreed. Like, I think it's one of those bands I go see. Give me like a 35-minute opener, 45 tops. I'm good. You know, that's all I need. But it's cool for what they do. But yeah, so I'm trying to figure out if I even saw this movie you're talking about. So this is part 3, or this is one of the remakes?
No, this is the first remake.
Okay, I did see that in the theater.
Yeah.
I really like that one actually. That's
the one with Jessica Biel. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's dude. I'm a huge fan of this movie, and I can't. I think I'm a bigger fan of the one that came after, called The Beginning.
Yeah,
and it's basically like how it sets up the. I mean, oh my god, I just watched them recently, and
right.
The Beginning just has such fucked up kills in a couple parts. Like I love that shit. Again, for me, the gorier the better.
Yeah.
Just make it gnarly, dude. So but yeah, I mean, Hatebreed, you know what you're getting. So all right, so what do you have next on your list, man?
All right, speaking of an album that has tons of bands on it, but I really only picked it for the one. Somebody mentioned Freddy versus Jason.
Yes.
And everyone knows my penchant for all things Kill Switch.
I was waiting for this one.
Yeah. The famous Adam D line. This song is about when our singer Howard went ice skating. It's called "When Darkness Falls."
Jesus.
Hey, he said this joke
Really?
many a time. Yeah, it's so hilarious. But I absolutely like this. This song is the most ridiculous, full-on screaming. Like, like if you don't like this kind of music, you're absolutely going to hate it. And then it gets to the chorus, and the chorus is just complete fucking like melodic gold for like 14 seconds each time the chorus comes around. I mean,
Right.
otherwise it's just a thrashing metal onslaught. But the chorus, so good. The movie, I don't know. I forgot who said it was an amazing movie. I don't know that I've ever made it all the way through. It's really bad.
No, it's bad, but I've made it through, and it's fun at a certain level. But
yeah, it's I don't know. So, and you probably know. So there's this soundtrack's chock full of like, you know, you've got Mushroom Head, Seven Dust, Stone Sour, Slipknot, Chimera, and Flames, and Hatebreed's on this as well. So
yep.
I mean, if you want a full on you know, almost like making a Spotify playlist nowadays, I guess. Just throw on this soundtrack, and you probably won't be disappointed for the amount of metal that's on this thing.
Right. All right, so I'm going to get to my next one, but I'm going to bring up a comment first. Mike's Musical Rehab says, I'm going Cleveland here. Freddy versus Jason. Mushroomhead Sun Doesn't Rise. Mike, Cleveland obviously is our hometown. And I actually have a Cleveland band next on my list from the same soundtrack. And it's a band that I've told the story on the show before that they were writing this record next door to me while I was rehearsing with my band Gatlin. I am going with Army of Me by Chimera from the Freddy vs. Jason soundtrack. You know, the thing that stands out immediately is it's got that, you know, in Cleveland we call it the Ben Schigel production. It is like razor sharp, just beautifully clean. So that's the first thing that stands out, and this is on the Impossibility of Reason record. But it's got this weird intro riff, Brian, where it's like it's like a single note, it's like down, but it's like hard to nail down a melody there. It kind of sounds like they were just like picking notes and being like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna write a riff. It goes like this, do 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 do," and they're like, "All right, sounds good to me," like, which is kind of cool. But then it gets into that typical Chimera having this like, you know, you can hear the, you know, the ride cymbal real clear, and you know, like the super tight double bass, and just, oh my God. Okay, all right, here we go. All right, so Mike's Musical Rehab, he says, Jimmy LaMarca is one of my best friends from Chimera. We've been best friends since we were 5. I'm wondering, Mike, if like we've run into each other because like Jimmy and I, he graduated a year before me from Strongsville High School, but I know the Chimera guys because we went to high school together, and the Omniarch guys, and I was switched and all that. So Ben Schigel and Jim and you know, all those guys, man. Brad Coachmit, I'm sorry, BC Coachmit. That's what he went with professionally. But I wonder if we ran into each other, man. That's very cool. So apparently, Mike and I live in the same neighborhood, at least close to each other at some point. So, but yeah, Chimera, Army of Me. I don't think you can ever really go wrong with Chimera. It's one of those bands where I think one of the things I always appreciated about Chimera was, and I was never like a fanboy, even though like I know the guys. Like I was never like a huge fanboy, but I really liked this stuff. But what I appreciate about them, like they're so heavy. And the one thing that I never really got into about super heavy shit, Brian, is that like it kind of gets repetitive. And so a lot of like the heaviest bands that I was into and still am really is Slayer and Pantera. And Slayer really I'm not as much into anymore because I just found out the guys are dicks, and as I've said before on the show, if guys in bands are assholes, it just turns me off. But Pantera, like that's like the one screamer, really heavy band I was really into because there's a lot of variation in what they do. And I think Chimera, for as heavy as they are, they had some variation in there as well. So I'm a big Chimera fan. And so I really like this tune. So I think we talked about it before. Are you overly familiar with Chimera? Not really familiar? Like
I'm sort of vaguely familiar. It's one of those bands I always think like, man, I should go back and kind of listen to more, and I always kind of forget. So I'm gonna need to like make some notes because I really want to start listening to some new stuff that I just haven't checked out before.
Sure.
You know?
I would really recommend starting with Impossibility of Reason.
Okay.
It's their second record. that is just like, I mean, I think, and Mike's Musical Rehab, correct me if I'm wrong here in saying this, but I would think that most, if not all, Chimera fans would say that that's the Chimera record. So let me know if I'm wrong. Mike also says Ben has produced a lot of big stuff. He's talking about Ben Schigel. Yeah, Ben recorded 3 records for me actually at Spider Studios out there in Strongsville, man. I actually where Spider Studios is at, Mike, I grew up maybe a minute and a half from there. I could literally walk to that studio in less than 10 minutes from where I grew up. So kind of crazy. All right. So what do you got next, man?
Once again, this is kind of a somewhat banger of a soundtrack. The Faculty, 1988. I'm going to focus specifically on
Nice.
Stabbing Westward, Haunting Me. I'm sure this is a band
Okay.
you absolutely probably hate.
Not a fan. Yeah.
I love Stabbing Westward. To me, they are kind of the melodic sort of I don't know, junior high safe version of Nine Inch Nails, I guess is my
Yeah.
way of putting it. You know, much poppier, and I think the drummer, I believe, played with Trent and Exotic Birds, or was somehow involved in Nine Inch Nails at some point. I've always liked, I always sort of like that style where you get a nice blend of keyboards, a little bit of an industrial sound, but you still got some great melodies. I love the singer's voice in it. He's got a very unique sound. It's nothing like it's not a hard rock metal voice by any stretch, but I think he's perfect for what they do.
Right.
And I don't know, their songs always just kind of set a cool mood, and I love listening to them. It also has that version, which I didn't realize. I don't know why I thought this was Korn, but it's Lane Staley with Tom Morello with that version of Another Brick in the Wall Part 2.
Right.
And I don't know where I got that was Korn, but originally, but I always thought that version was super cool. You know, the way they did it, I thought it sort of modernized it some and made it a little bit unique. And that's a cool enough. The Faculty's a decent enough, you know, movie. I mean, the idea that all the high school teachers are aliens and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's kind of a cool little concept because, you know, everyone hates their teachers anyway. So now you got even more reason, like, oh my God, these teachers never understand me. You know, it's like, okay, well, literally they're from another planet, right? And
Yep.
I don't know how well that movie holds up today watching it. It's been a while, but yeah, Stabbing Westward, Haunting Me. That's what I got.
Well, I'm a huge fan of like cheesy 80s horror. Like I think there's a certain, God, I hate to use this word, but charm to the crappiness of like the special effects. Like if you watch like, you know, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, for example, like it's so cheesy, but it's like it's so much fun.
Yep.
You know, even stuff like the Terminator, like, you know, when he's cutting, you know, skin around his eye, you know, you see Arnold Schwarzenegger, you're looking in the mirror, and then the next second you've got this like rubber thing going like, you know, but there's something about it that's like so honest and so cheesy that you just can't help but love it. Real quick before I get to my next selection, Brian, Doug McCauley, he's not so much a Stabbing Westward fan so much as he is he said deflecting eastward is better.
Right. If you're stabbing westward, you better deflect eastward.
Yes. All right, so keeping with the theme of things I don't know quite as well, I have one more, and then I've got one that I know pretty well, and then I'm getting into stuff that I know very well. So this next one is from a movie called Idle Hands, which I saw in the theater. I want to say I was in high school or just out of high school. Not a great movie. Basically, the dude's one hand becomes possessed by the devil or whatever. If that's
he's got the arms of a madman. That's always Jill and I's joke. Like when someone gets like they get a new eye, it's the eye of a madman.
Right, a madman. But yeah, so from Idle Hands, this is a band that I don't necessarily, you know, get into, but again, in small doses, and they got a couple cool songs, and it's the new metal genre, and you can't deny that for a little bit of type of stuff. I have "Push It" by Static X.
What?
Yeah. So, dude, like I saw Static X so many times live back in the day because in the early 2000s, like I was at so many of these shows, like going to see like Stereo Mud and, you know, Seven Dust and bands like that. And Static X ended up on so many of these bills, Trapped and Stone Sour and all this kind of crap. And dude, Static X was just like, again, I would kind of, compare them to Hatebreed in that what you're going to get. Like, if you're into it, you're really into it. And if you're not really into it, you do appreciate at least like a 20-minute blast of it, or like 10, 15 minutes, a couple songs, And this is a perfect example of it. It's just a standard, less than 3-minute, banger of a Static X tune. It's like, push it, push it. Like,
so it's not the cover of Salt and Pepper, as Doug McCauley says.
It's funny, like it is not, but
okay.
when I
think
first
it would be the way you're describing
it. No, it's not, but it's just like a goofy, like Doug
Right.
McCauley says it, man. He says, "Is that their Salt and Pepper cover?" Like, no, it is not. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's really not much more to say, but it's just like a fun song. It's like, push it. It's Wayne Static with the hair going everywhere, looking around goofy, and like it's Static X. What can you say?
Right.
But it's 2.5 minutes again, like the Hatebreed tune in it, and it's just kind of it's a banger, dude. It blasts, So I'm a fan. So, all right, what do you got next?
I do want to mention Sarcasmo Asholio, and somebody else mentioned the Crow soundtrack. The only reason I did not pick that is I used that on one of our Dream Theater albums. If they're not available, I used that one, so I decided to shy away from that. But I absolutely love the Crow soundtrack. It's great, yeah.
Okay.
Full disclosure. All right, I'm going to go with this one again. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's cheating, but I think it's the best by far, and it's not even close, of the Rob Zombie movies, and that's Devil's Rejects soundtrack. Now, there's nothing new or original on here, but I don't know. There's something about this classic rock from the 70s while people are just getting absolutely ripped to shreds and annihilated. And
Yep.
all this and you're hearing like the Midnight Rider and
Right.
Rock On. I mean, the list of hits on here is Rock On, Funk 49, James Gang, Rocky Mountain Way, Joe Walsh, Freebird. And I've told people this before. There's something to me about it kind of goes back probably before the 70s, but it's still kind of valid for the point about these people that are like just borderline psycho serial killers or just killers in general that come from like an era of 40 to 50 years ago, because I feel like it's so much easier to just kill somebody and get away with it, right? There's no cameras everywhere. There's no cell phones. And there's something creepy as shit about that, right? Like, because people like know in the back of their minds, well, no one's going to catch me. I can keep this. So I don't know. It always kind of creeps me out more when I hear stories or you hear about, oh, this guy was a serial killer from the 60s or 70s or even somebody like Ted Bundy, which was like 70s. And I think into I think it was late 70s or mid 70s.
Yeah.
But and it's like it's so unsophisticated too. It's not like guns. It's like knives and shit, and just absolutely ripping people apart. And there's something about the sound. I think he played it right using just this basically FM 70s soundtrack. Tunes that you'd hear on AM radio really back then. Just the AM album oriented rock radio. It fits the mood. And it's by far his best movie. It's just great directed. The suspense is great in it, and it's not totally hokey. And I'm just go with the whole damn soundtrack on there.
Dude, it's hard to argue with that. I mean, like the scene in like where is it? Like he takes who's the brother? Because I know it's the three of them, but like the brother takes him from the hotel to that like abandoned the water towers in the background and shit. Like, right. I mean, like you said, the tension is just unbelievable. And I completely agree with you in that, the usage of music in the movies is like in his movies is just excellent.
Yep.
Like it kind of fits the time. And, I mean, to your point, like, in these movies that they're not going to get caught. Yep. So what are you going to see? So for me, like saying earlier that like I like the gore, I like to see something gnarly. The Terrifier movies are just completely right up my alley. I mean, you and I watched Green Hell together, or Green Inferno together, and you remember me? I was like, I was like, fuck yeah, dude! Like that fat guy's getting chopped up, dude. So, but yeah, I completely agree with you because it's like you know that there aren't going to be repercussions. So they can pretty much get away with anything.
Yeah.
and it adds to that. So, on the back of your point, I'm going to come off of my last one that people don't really know about, to go to one that everybody knows about, and I will also choose a song from a Rob Zombie soundtrack. And this is a song you can talk a lot about, because if you can't talk about this as a classic rock fan, then I don't care if you like this band or not. This song fucking rules. I'm going with a song from Rob Zombie's first Halloween movie, which is excellent. And this song is playing as they first show the Myers house. This is, I want to say it's track 3, either 3 or 4 on the Destroyer album from 1976. It is God of Thunder by Kiss.
Yep.
Like, that is just, again, talk about setting up the time period and everything. Like, when you hear that in that movie, like, you're in the 70s, but it's also it's a boom, bam, 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 bam. So it's like there's a heaviness to it. So it just really sets the tone. And I mean, dude, you and I love Kiss. Like, we're Kiss fans. And you especially, I'm sure you're a monstrous Kiss fan because of all the keyboards. And but dude, I mean, Destroyer is an undeniably great record, and God of Thunder is just such a standout, and it's just got such a vibe to it. And even the little kids like chattering throughout, which is I think it was what the producer's kids, I think, just there's always been a creepy vibe to that, even before it was like this major set piece for Gene spitting the blood and doing the bass solo and all that. Like, it was a Halloween song before bands had a Halloween song, and it's just perfect that it's in a movie called Halloween. So I've always been a God of Thunder fan, and when I heard it, when I first saw Halloween in the theater, I was like, hell yeah, dude. So yeah, I've got God of Thunder by Kiss from Rob Zombie's first Halloween movie.
You know what's funny is I was literally watched about the first 35 minutes before we started of that Rob Zombie one again, and Mike's Musical Rehab is right that they also do Love Hurts, and that's sticking with me too. Like,
yep,
what a powerful song that was in the movie too.
Right. By the way, real quick, Sarcasmo Asholio, Shocker was good. Shocker is good call. Wasn't that Megadeth 99 Ways to Die? No. 99 Ways to Die was the Beavis and Butthead soundtrack. Yep. No More Mr. Nice Guy is the one you're thinking of. Yep. But excellent call, Sarcasmo, on 99 Ways to Die, because that is one of my all-time favorite Megadeth songs. That is one of the most underrated metal songs to me fucking ever. I love that song. The riff is amazing. The groove, like, it's like, if you think of like Dave Mustaine as like snotty, like like the way his vocal delivery is, that song is the definition of it. Like, it's just awesome.
My only issue is I did the math on this, and I came up with like 73. So I want to know where these other 20 these other 26 are coming from.
I should have known where that was going.
Yeah. Full disclosure.
Full disclosure. All right, man. So what's next on your list?
Okay, I'm gonna go with let's see. I totally forgot about this version of this song, and I know nothing about who did this or what it is other than the name that came up. It's in the original Scream soundtrack. I think since this came out, there's been like 14 versions of this at least, but it's Don't Fear the Reaper, basically done acoustically. And it's by...
Really?
All it says is Gus. So I have no idea who Gus is, and I decided not to research it because I didn't care. But I also know for a fact I've seen, I don't know, multiple movies or TV shows or whatever where somebody does some kind of acoustic version of Don't Fear the Reaper. Blue Oyster Cult, classic song, right? Nobody milks more out of the same riff and a cowbell like over and over, right, than this song. But it still always works. And it was interesting listening to it again because, man, you could hear every time the chord changes, you can hear the fret noise is like really, really bad
right on
this recording, but it's also 1996. So you're thinking like at the time you probably never noticed it, but now you're like, wow, it's a little bit noticeable. But yeah, it's just this super slow, haunting, acoustic version of Don't Fear the Reaper, and it's very cool.
Awesome. Don't you All right, so you're bringing up like the fret noise. Don't you think that kind of adds a little bit of feel to it? Like I really, really, really like acoustic stuff, and for me, like hearing that kind of thing, I kind of like the squeaks and the, all that kind of thing. To me, it just feels more real. Like I mean, where do you stand on that?
Well, I normally don't mind it, but for some reason, I don't know. I just it's one of those deals where you catch on to something and you're like, oh shit, now I can't get this out of my mind. So
Right.
it took away from it a little. But yeah, I mean, in general, yeah, I don't want everything. Let's make it as live as we possibly can. It might have been too because I had it like cranked up super loud, and I'm like, okay, maybe I don't need it to quite this loud,
Okay.
right in my ears or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, it's a cool version. Like I said, I know for a fact there's been multiple. You could probably go on any streaming services and find 35 bands that did their own version of this song. But
Sure.
I think I do strictly remember at the time seeing this movie, and I think it was even in the previews, and they did a little bit of it, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I never heard anybody do that.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I've got one more before I get to stuff that everybody knows, at least bands that everybody knows. This is one that I don't think anybody's going to know the band, anybody's going to know the song, and I don't think anybody's going to know the movie. But I will say I saw this movie when I had just graduated high school, and I went to a Cleveland Indians game with one of my best buddies in high school. His name was Steve Kupchik. I was actually he was the guitar player in the first band I was ever in. Get ready for it, Brian. We were called the Snowberries. And it was me on bass, Kupchik on guitar, Josh Kudlati on guitar, and Chuck on drums.
Who could forget Chuck?
Dude, honestly, I wish I could remember his last name, but he was actually a fucking incredible drummer. I mean, like he was like 17, and the kid was ungodly good. But in any case, so Steve Kupchik and I had gone to a Guardians game. Look, I'm reversing it, an Indians game, and it started to rain. We're like, let's go to the movies in Tower City. As you remember, Tower City had the movie theater, and there was a movie playing called Brain Scan, and it was Halloween horror movie, whatever. And we're like, let's go see it. And this song was in it. And for those of you guys who've not seen Brain Scan, you can find it on Amazon. You might find it a little cheesy. I would describe the movie as this. It's like a cheesy 80s movie, but creepier because it was set in the 90s. But then the cheese factor's amped up by the main, quote unquote bad guy who's called the Trickster. But the concept of the movie is fucking awesome. It's kind of like, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who wants to watch it, but basically it's about a video game, and you're not sure what's real and what's not in the movie.
You don't
so
want to spoil the plot of Brain Scan. Careful there, John.
Yeah. Right.
This is like War and Peace.
I know. I would highly recommend it though, man. I would highly recommend it though. It's cheesy, but the concept is kind of dark, and it's a very cool concept. But anyway, so the movie is called Brain Scan. This song is by a band called, Brian, I'm sure you've heard of them many times before. It's a band called Tad, and the song is called Greasebox.
I do remember Tad. That's like that giant, like 400-pound dude from that band from Seattle, right? That's a grunge band.
It might be. If you remember, I don't know. I just remember the riff.
They came out same time as Screaming Trees, and they were part of that Seattle scene, but they never really went anywhere. So I do know the band. Yes.
Well, okay. Well, it might be that, like, dude, I just remember. I think it was over the closing credits, and it's and it's always stuck with me. I'm like, that song fucking rules, and I love the movie. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. And this song just like, dude, it's a kick-ass riff. It's like it's just a great riff and a driving tune, and it's one of those, like, it's like a total indie rocker, like a heavy indie rocker band. Like you could picture being in like a shitty, dingy, crappy little club that a quote unquote national band is playing. There's like 150 people in there, and there's just a killer pit. Like, we're gonna play Greasebox, and you're just getting knocked around, getting fucking punched in the back of the head trying to order a beer at the bar because it's so tight. Like, it's a great song, man. I would encourage people to look that up. It's just got a great riff, and it's the typical like early 90s production with the super tight like piccolo snare and all that kind of shit. But it's just it grooves, man. So
I got to go listen to this now. Yeah, that there's a lot of those bands that credit that. I think the dude's name was Tad. I think he's since passed. But the credits kind of taken some of their sound from that band.
It's heavy, dude. Like it's a great song. So yeah, check it out. If he was influential, that I did not know. Like I said, I love Brain Scan, and I always remember, dude. Brain Scan has always stuck with me, and this song has always stuck with me. So when I picture the movie, I picture the song, and vice versa. So it's kind of cool. So, what do you got next on your list, man?
All right. Speaking of cheesy, this was when I was in my heyday of movies, and I learned an interesting fact that I swear to God, I had no idea on this. So this is 1985's Return of the Living Dead. Have you ever seen this movie?
I have.
Oh
awesome.
my God.
I love the 80s cheese, and this is like a
dude, this movie is so
example.
freaking hilarious and scary at the same time. I'll never forget. So the original trailer for this, when it came out in the theaters, they kept playing this song. It's like, "Do you want to party? It's party time." And I thought this is the coolest song in the world. And if I remember right, in the movie, that I don't think it gets played a whole lot. And my memory's freaking shot to hell. So anyway, it's in there, but the band is called 45 Grave. And I remember researching that song and trying to find it, and forever and ever and ever, and I finally found it, like, whenever the hell this was. You can find it everywhere now, obviously. But there's some kind of some punk, some sort of heavy hitters of the punk era, like TSOL is on there. The Cramps, the Damned have a song.
Yep.
Here's the fact on this. Do you know who wrote and directed this movie? You're never going to guess in a million years.
You know what? I know this, and I can't think of it.
Okay, well, maybe you do know.
Oh, fuck, tell me. I'm going to kick myself, but I know this.
Dan O'Bannon.
Yes.
The dude who basically is responsible for Alien and Aliens and like all that is good about that franchise.
Yep.
I had no freaking idea until I was looking this up today, and I was like, I got to find that Party Time 45 Grave song, and I want to find out a little bit more about the movie, etc. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me, Dan O'Bannon?
Right.
Like, this is one of those movies, like, I got to let you know when we're going to do this, because Bob and Kurt and I have talked about, we did this before, like a really bad movie night where everyone just brings a movie. You sit there and you watch like 3 horrible movies or 4. Whatever, just drink beer all night and make stupid comments. It's hilarious. But this is one I would love to watch again with a bunch of people, just because it's so freaking hilarious.
Well, you know what we could do? Speaking to that, we could do a Talking Into Infinity Two Bob's podcast crossover and do it live.
Oh, there we go.
we've got enough spots on our StreamYard. We could literally do a crossover.
Technology, that would be amazing.
Oh, dude, watch alongs are great. We'll just pull it up on the same platform. We all hit play at the same time, and off we go, man. That'd be awesome.
I'm sure the Two Bobs would not turn that down. But
yes.
Yeah, if you have not seen this, I know we don't have many hours left in Halloween here, about 3, but go check out 1985's Return of the Living Dead. Now, they did a bunch, I think, not too long after this, like where they just really threw them together, super fast, super shitty ones that I don't think are anywhere near as good. But this one's just a classic movie. This is a classic movie.
Yep, totally agree. All right, so how many do you have left? Because obviously we both have the one we're going to talk about last. I've got 3 more. How many do you have?
3 or 4. Yeah, 3 or
3.
4. Yeah, probably 3.
All right. So let me see. So of my final 4, we've obviously got the same one. So of the other 3, 2 of them are by the same band. So I'm going to save those for before our last one. So my next one is going to be from which unfortunately is the start of the downfall of one of my favorite franchises, Hellraiser. This is from Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. The last theatrically released Hellraiser movie. There's a little factoid for you. This is the better version of this song. It's a song called Hellraiser, and it is Motorhead with Hellraiser from Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. It's the Hellraiser song from the No More Tears record, but Ozzy and Lemmy co-wrote it. And this one is more straightforward. And honestly, it's better than the Ozzy version. I backed him up. I did a back-to-back listen and everything. And the Lemmy version's better. The bass playing is a little more intricate. Lemmy's bass tone makes it great. The harmony guitars before each verse are a little exaggerated, which makes it kind of cool. But I will say the ultimate version of this song would be the Motorhead version, this one, but with Zakk Wylde playing guitar on it. That would make this song amazing, because the version on No More Tears just has all this ridiculous, like, echoey garbage and goofy, like, drop-ins and all this. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, ugh. Like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Kale, I will give you this, Kale. He says, but it's not better than the duo version, because they do have a version with Ozzy and Lemmy both singing on it. Kale, I don't know, man. I think I prefer this Motorhead version, and again, I will stand by my statement that this would be the ultimate version of this song would be the Motorhead version that I'm talking about, but with Zakk Wylde playing guitar. Because all the Zakk squealies and the better chords and everything, like, I mean, it's so funny that you can tell, like, the difference in the skill level of the guitar players, because, you know, Zakk, like, you know, and all those kind of riffs and stuff that we're familiar with. On the Motorhead version, they're doing single notes, but Zakk Wylde's like doing bending chords and shit like that. I mean, it's, you know, you can just tell. And so I think if you combine the Zakk Wylde guitar playing with the Motorhead version of the song, it'd be the most kick-ass version of that song. And before we get to that, Brian, I'm going to make a very crazy statement, and everyone can shit on me for this, but I've always wanted to say this. No More Tears, possibly the most overrated Ozzy record ever. Okay, move on.
I don't know. I could kind of see where you're coming from. Still a great album, but
just overrated.
Yeah, Hellraiser, great song, man. That's a very cool choice. So I remember seeing the first Hellraiser. I was confused as hell, didn't know what was going on, but I thought it was a great movie. And then I went to saw the second Hellraiser, and I thought, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. No. I was even more lost. So I don't know. Maybe I need to go back and rewatch them. I know nothing about Hellraiser 3 other than the song.
Hellraiser 3, don't even bother. If you don't like the first two, it's like, even for me, it gets terrible.
It's bad. Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, the first one's awesome. I mean, the concept is like the guy gets sent to hell by, Le Marchand's box, the lament configuration, and he gets resurrected by blood in the room where he committed crimes, and it's just dark and gritty and gory, and just there's nothing positive about any of that fucking movie. And then the second one is more gore and more hell, and it absolutely kicks ass. And I will defend those movies till the day I die, man. And so many of my friends are like, I don't get it. Those movies suck. Even my stepdaughter, who loves horror movies, like, she and I are on the same page on everything. She's like, Hellraiser's dumb. I was like, you know what? You can move out. So.
Well, like I said, I enjoyed the first one. The second one, I don't know. I may go back and rewatch 1 and 2 at some point. But
look at this. Look at Sarcasmo. Fuck you, man. You're gonna show up after like a year. Look, he says you're wrong. About as overrated as Falling Into Infinity. All right, man.
Hey, at least he didn't say as overrated as Talking Into Infinity. We know that's overrated.
I'm the one that says that. All right. So what's next on your list, man?
I put this on here, and now I'm thinking, why? So, speaking of absolutely amazing guitar that's nowhere to be found whatsoever, I don't know. I only put this on here because I remember I bought these 2 cassettes at the exact same time. I bought Megadeth Peace Cells, and I bought Alice Cooper Constrictor.
1986, okay.
And I wore both of them out. I love both albums, and so we've Constrictor does have from, I believe it's Friday the 13th, Part 6, The Man Behind the Mask. Now, there's no guitar in this song at all, which I kind of remember from the time, but I went back and listened to it again, and I'm like, when the hell did Alice Cooper join Flock of Seagulls? Like, what the like,
nice.
I mean, did he bring in, like, the entire Humid League as his backing band on this thing, man? I mean, it's such oversaturated 80s synth pop, but I still like the chorus on it. And I mean, you can't have anyone else singing a song about Jason that time period than Alice Cooper, right? Who else is going to do it?
Yes.
It's hokey as shit, I guess, which is probably fine, because the Friday the 13th movies, I mean, we went back and Jill and I she claims to have never seen the original, even though I know we watched it. So we watched it again the other day, and it really is it's just some really rough parts in there. And so we went on to part 2, and there's rough parts in there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a cool little dumb catchy pop song that fits what is, essentially, like most of the Friday the 13th, a really terrible movie. Let's just be honest here. But yeah, I mean, I love that whole Constrictor album. I think it's a great album, and this probably, I don't know what else is actually on the Friday the 13th Part 6 soundtrack. I'm guessing it's probably some stuff that's even worse than this, And I only like this because it's Alice Cooper, and I like the chorus on it. And this is such a classic because I listened to that cassette so many times. I had to put this song on there.
Right. Yeah, I got to be honest. I've never heard it. So, but if you're talking about the Friday the 13th movies, that is a horror franchise that they're not bad, but I mean, there's a long documentary out there you can watch, and basically all of the movies got neutered in terms of like the amount of blood they could show. And I think that kind of takes it really neuters those movies because, there's some great kills and shit, but if no one's bleeding, it's like, then it just looks like fake as shit. So for that reason, it's like, yeah. And then you get to stuff like, Jason X and Jason Takes Manhattan and everything. So like,
right.
Not good. So, I'm getting shit on in the chat. So that's awesome. Dude, I love our chat. These guys are awesome. Like, real quick, to bring up something in the chat. So, look at this. Talking about overrated. Like everyone's like, bring up, is it more overrated than Falling Into Infinity? All these other things, man. Wow. Yeah. Sarcasmo. I'll catch up in another year or so. Best of luck, boys. Sarcasmo. Great to see you, man. Dude, we're doing the fan hangout on December 20th, man. Shoot us an email, talkingintoinfinity@gmail.com. You were on like what? 2 years ago, dude. Jump on again. Come on in and co-host with us, man. Come on in, man. Yeah, I mean, they're so unbelievably cheesy. And the remake was good, I thought.
Yeah, that remake wasn't bad. That's only because I think they got Michael Bay involved, and he usually can take on something like that. But
well, they actually got some violence in it, like that was kind of visceral. So, all right. So I've got 3 left, as I'm sure you do. Our number 1 we'll talk about at the end. My next 2, my last 2, are by the same band, and so I am going to rank these. I'm going to rank the first. It's the second one. This one I'm talking about now is not as good as the one I'm going to talk about next. So, no surprise here, but I'm a monstrous Pantera fan, and I've been waiting to bring this up because the chat had brought it up so many times. But The Crow, 1994, just an awesome movie, great soundtrack. But dude, you got to bring up Pantera, the badge.
Yep.
It is, as far as Pantera, even for Pantera, because they've got some simplistic stuff here and there. This is a very simple, and it's like basically just like it's just them jamming, and it's just a very simplistic but still super heavy Pantera song of its time. You can tell it's kind of like a demo. It doesn't have the production of Vulgar Display or Far Beyond Driven, and Far Beyond was 1994. The Crow came out in 1994, but it's fucking Pantera, dude. Like, I mean, that's the whole. What more can you say? It's fucking Pantera. I mean, it's just I mean, going into the what is it, the chorus, I think, but like but then at the end, and it's doing like a full-time kind of like drum fills and shit. Well, going into the last one, it does the halftime like dad again and dad, that total Pantera groove where Vinnie Paul's just smashing the bell of the ride cymbal, and oh my god, just unbelievable. It's just like, it's so simplistic, but especially as soundtrack songs go, it's awesome. So there you go.
So that was a cover, according to Doug McCauley. I never knew that. Who did that originally?
Yeah, I'm not sure who did it. Doug, if you know who that was, let us know. Doug does say best cover Pantera ever did. I will completely disagree, Doug. I think their cover of Hole in the Sky was absolutely fucking incredible. I will Hole in the Sky and also Planet Caravan. I would take those two over the Badge. But
they did a really good Madonna Papa Don't Preach too. It was really
asshole. Dude, we've got dude Zauber and Kale are going at it in the chat. Look at this. Look at this. So Zauber had said almost as overrated as The Astonishing. So tired of people calling it a masterpiece. And Kale said, Zauber, you're wrong. And Zauber said, Kale, explain yourself. I'm never wrong.
He does have a point, Kale. I don't think he's ever been wrong.
And Kale says, except you're plain wrong on this one. I think I'm seeing a battle coming on. So Zauber and Kale, we might have to have you guys on for another Octagon match. We had Octavarium in the Octagon. Maybe we need to have the Astonishing in the Octagon. It'll be Zauber 96 versus Kale McLeish. So there we go. All right, so you've got one more before our final one. I do too. So,
all right, this isn't even from a movie, but I played this for you. I think a year or two ago when I first found it. I think it's been about 3 years now. This is Ice Nine Kills with Jason's Mom. This is the best. Now we've all heard the Merkins, like the "I'll Kill You That Way," and I found one the other day. I don't know if you saw this. More Than Burns instead of More Than Words. Yeah. It's great stuff. Right. But this Jason's Mom, Ice Nine Kills, I absolutely love the band. They have that album, something about the Silver Scream, where every song is about a horror movie. There's one about it. There's one about Psycho. There's one about Halloween. These guys are amazing. I always call them like the sort of like the metal version of Panic at the Disco, because that's kind of what this, because the singer has a super high voice and he kind of does some sing-songy stuff like that, but there's these razor sharp guitars and they got screams and stuff going on in them. So all their music is great, but man, that Jason's Mom, it's basically the rip off of Stacy's Mom, and that chorus where it's like, I'm in love with her whether her head's off or on. It's so
right.
Stupid. I don't know, man. I just, whenever Halloween comes around or October rolls around, I bust that out like at least once or twice a day. I just got to listen to that song because it's so fun. And just a fun band too. And the fact they do all these songs about horror movies and stuff is great.
Totally agree, man.
And so I had to throw them in there.
All right. Well, I got one more. And then I will let you start our final one. But so this next one, again, same band, but this is a Pantera song that if you guys have not heard it, it is a criminally underrated Pantera tune. This is from the Dracula 2000 soundtrack, which that movie is absolute shit. And this is the one I talked about earlier where I saw part of it and I only saw it because I was drunk, because I can't handle vampire movies. I have a thing with needles and for some reason vampire movies with biting is like, it feels like needles to me, so I can't watch vampire movies. Like I basically almost throw up, and I was really drunk and someone tried to get me through this, and it wasn't because it was gross, it was so shitty. So I saw part of Dracula 2000, but yeah, so this is Pantera, Avoid the Light. This is I forget if it's I think it's a B-side from the Reinventing the Steel record, but yeah, I mean, this song is just like, if you guys haven't heard it and you're a Pantera fan, run, don't walk. I mean, it's like, it starts with this like yeah, right. Just, I mean, it starts with the strumming part, like it's like an acoustic, like the creepy dime strumming thing. It's not really creepy. It's kind of like, you're like, okay, where's this going? Like a little bit more major. And it turns out that that's the chorus part. And then it goes into this creepy, like, single note acoustic riff. And then it hits this verse of just like double bass. And the riff is just, it's just like squealy and double bass. Like it's basically, if you love Pantera, this has like all the elements that you love about Pantera in one song, except they released it for a soundtrack song. I mean, it's like, in the middle of the song, like when they get to the solo part, they do like a major scale thing to totally juxtapose it against, all the creepy shit that, was going on earlier in the song. And it's just a fantastic Pantera song. And Brian, I'm going to put you in solo mode here. because I would like you to talk about what you think about this song. And I think you've got some good thoughts about this one.
About the Pantera one?
Exactly.
Yeah. I have no thoughts on that one. So we're going to go to, I guess this is both of our number one, right? Should I just go ahead and start it here? We are talking about Dokken's Dream Warriors. I believe that's where we're going to go to next here. A little bit of research here because I wasn't quite sure. It technically is the first single, even though Back for the Attack would not be released for another 6 months or so. There are arguments to be made, as far as I'm concerned. Dokken, Back for the Attack, definitely a top 10 hard rock 80s metal album, however you want to describe it, of all time. Possibly a top 5 for the guitar playing and the singing and the melodies and the choruses alone. And Dream Warriors has every single element you want from that. It has all of the great Dokken harmonies. It's got all of the incredible George Lynch guitar squeaks, squawks, hammer-ons, harmonics, whatever you want him to do, dive bombs, every single thing that George Lynch can do to a guitar, he does on Dream Warriors, and he does on every single song on Back for the Attack. It is an absolute clinic, and it's probably the best thing about that movie, to be honest, because I don't know that as far as the Nightmare on Elm Street, one's decent, two's kind of okay. They start going really downhill rather quickly after that. I thought the very last one where they brought the actors in as if they were in the movie, that was done fairly well. But man, Dokken Dream Warriors, I mean that riff, every single time I hear that riff, it absolutely gets me, and it's one that everyone just thinks of immediately, like, oh, horror movie song. I mean, it's got to be Dream Warriors. What else would you possibly even go to?
Yep. I mean, like, what else do you think of? You just nailed it. Like, if you're talking about horror movie soundtracks, the very first thing you think of is Dream Warriors, and it's an unbelievably recognizable riff. To the point where, I mean, bringing it back to the beginning of the show, when we played the Rock Hall last weekend, we were doing our sound check, and the sound guy's like kick drum, and our drum was like boom, 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 and I went bam, bam, and my guitar player Jason started pissing himself. He's like Dream Warriors, seriously? I'm like, well, what else are you gonna do when that kick drum comes in like that, like at that tempo? So
right.
I will say real quick before we get back to the song, I think you're completely wrong about the quality of the movie. I think Nightmare on Elm Street 1 is absolute legend. The second one got a little goofy in spots, and the third one just it basically started the trend of the goofy fun kills. Yeah. But it had the creepiness and the seriousness of the first movie. So I think Dream Warriors is just awesome. That's why I've got it as my background tonight, and just an absolutely fucking kick-ass movie. But yeah, I mean, Dream Warriors, like you said, like just, it's an awesome riff. And like you said, like the solo, it's just like all the George Lynch you could ever want. And if you listen to actually, like, as the song's fading out, when they're, the 80s songs, like they've got to have like the 60-second, just repeat the chorus with like, let's add more guitar and more vocals and all this kind of stuff. Like, by the way, bonus points to Lucas Spoken, who's back. He says, I'm back. I didn't disappear. Wink, wink. Well played, Luke. Well played. Luke is going to be one of our co-hosts for the fan hangout on December 20th, by the way. So if you guys want to be a part of the fan hangout, just shoot us an email at talkingintoinfinity@gmail.com or shoot us a Facebook message on our Facebook page and jump on screen and co-host with us. But yeah, back to the song, man. I mean, it's just a great goddamn song. And can we both agree, like, it's off a great goddamn album? I mean, it is the last song on Back from the Attack, which, I love Dokken. I don't know about you. I think Dokken is criminally underrated. And that's my favorite Dokken record. So
Yeah, there's two albums from the 80s that I don't know that they get underlooked, but as far as guitar, and I also realize I don't know that, well, I definitely know the second one wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Eddie Van Halen, but White Lion Pride and Docking Back for the Attack, just those two albums to me are just guitar.
Yeah.
Every single note is perfect. Every solo is perfect. Everything is so freaking melodic. All of the choruses are amazing. All of the melodies are great that the singers pick. And I don't know. For some reason, I always kind of put those two albums in the same category because they have a very Eddie Van Halen feel to the playing, but it's also very unique to George Lynch and of course extremely very unique to Vito Bratta as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, excellent points on that, man, because it is, I mean, Vito definitely was very influenced by Eddie. George Lynch, as we know, was a contemporary of Eddie's,
Right.
That's how Van Halen got signed. George Lynch, they were there to see the Boys, George Lynch's band, and they saw Van Halen, was like, fuck this other band. And yeah, and I think you're completely right on those two records because it's, incredibly guitar driven. It's, if you think about those two records, you think guitar and then you think choruses. And that's pretty much isn't that like the heart of Van Halen? I mean, isn't that what you think about Van Halen records? You think Eddie Van Halen, I could sing all the choruses. Okay, there you go. There's the crux of Van Halen. So but yeah, and back to Dream Warriors, dude. Like it's just, I mean, it's an undeniable song from an undeniable movie. And I think that's why it's always going to be the standard bearer. And as soon as we came up with this topic, it was like you and I both were like, well, duh.
Yeah.
That's why I save it for last because it's what else are you going to talk about? So yeah. I mean, Doc and Dream Warriors, there it is. I mean, if that doesn't define Halloween soundtracks, there you go. Look at Mike's. Okay, all right. Mike's Musical Rehab is asking a trivia. Mike, if you're going to ask trivia on this show, at least with me involved, at least make it difficult. Jeff Pilson was in a movie. Can you name that movie? Yes, I can. It was Rockstar.
Yeah.
Even Brian can do it. And he's not a trivia buff. He's also 78 years old and he's got a terrible memory. But
that's right. Say what?
Dude, and the chat is busy making Dream Theater puns. By the way, they are absolutely.
Miles Kennedy was also in a movie. Can you name that movie?
That's true. Jason, actually, I'll one up you. Jason Bonham was in a movie. Can you name that movie?
And Zach Wilde was in a movie. Can you name?
He was. Yes, very true. Oh my God! So there we go. Look at the man. The chat is just on fire, man.
Now we got Rush puns going.
There we go. We do. All right, so let's get to the next topic here. So we don't know what we're talking about in 2 weeks, but we do know what we are talking about on Friday, December 20th, Brian. That is our fan hangout show. And Luke Has Spoken is in. Chastity is in. Cale McLeish is in. And Doug McCauley is in. To all of you guys who are asking if you should send an email, do me a big favor. Send me an email because the Facebook messages do not always come across on my phone. So shoot us an email, talkingintoinfinity@gmail.com, just so I can track you guys. But yeah, you guys are definitely all in. Yeah, Brian, I'm really looking forward to that. That's only like 4 episodes away at this point, I think.
It's crazy, man. November's tomorrow already. I don't know where 2024 is.
I know.
Where we are.
I know.
I don't know where it went. Yeah.
Dude, and it's crazy to think how long the show's been around at this point. Like, I mean, I think this is, and we've done some bonus episodes, and I've done a couple like flash things and stuff, but I think this one is episode 93. So I think we can safely say we've done 100 episodes,
Wow.
here and there and the other. Like that. I mean, that's crazy. And again, I have to go back to thanking you because you're the one that came up with the concept for the show. So we wouldn't be at this point if you hadn't have been like, hey man, like we'd like to talk Dream Theater. You do this other podcast. Want to do a Dream Theater podcast? I was like, you know what? Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, let's do it. So
yeah, blame me for this shit show.
Right. Well, look, man, as much as we joke about it though, I mean, we got to talk about, for 30 minutes, like some serious, cool shit at the beginning of the show. We had people tuned in from Brazil tonight, from Germany. Like we talked about, when we did our reaction to Night Terror. Like, I mean, people from all across the world. I mean, Kale's here from, Australia, and all these different people, Canada. Doug's
it always amazes me, man. Like if you told me someone's going to be on here from Brazil, like I mean, I guess now I probably would have been like, I'm not that shocked, but a year or two ago, I'd been like, come on, like,
I know, right?
Even though we're still getting people from all, a lot of places back then. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I can't explain it. I guess people for some reason want to come on and sometimes, well, mostly listen. Most people are not dumb enough to want to look at us, but I appreciate those that are.
Yes. Well, I mean, dude, I think it's very flattering because at the root of the whole thing, you and I are massive Dream Theater fans. And you literally had this idea just because we like bullshitting about Dream Theater and music, and other people are,
See, there's a perfect example. Who would have thought that literally 1 minute ago Rufus would have chimed in? I mean, I have no idea who Rufus is, but I'm glad he chimed in. What's up, Rufus?
Station. He's obviously from Bill and Ted's. Rufus, what's up, man? He says, hi, what's up, guys? Great to see you, Rufus, man. See, Doug got it. Doug got it right away. Doug said, Rufus, Bill and Ted reference.
Okay, yeah, I'm not a huge Bill and Ted guy. So.
Oh my God, what? All right. Well, Brian doesn't need to be on the rest of the show. As soon as you disrespect Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey, you can just get the hell off of our show. All right, Brian, I'm bringing you back.
I didn't disrespect it. I just said I'm not a big.
Well, you're an idiot. Guy. So
Rufus I know that. Good Lord.
Rufus says, this is my first time tuning into a live stream. Well, Rufus, thank you very much for checking out the show at all, man. So hopefully you enjoyed the audio episodes, and welcome to a live stream, man.
It's probably safe to say there'll never be a second time, but we appreciate it anyway.
You never know, man. You just dissed Bill and Ted. Why would he want to tune in? That could be George Carlin reincarnated. You don't know.
You millennials and your thin skin. Dissed.
So Chastity is actually going to be listening to the next show in Florida. Let me see if I can find her comment.
Wow, people in Florida can actually get us down there too.
All right. Okay, so Rufus says, hey, what's good? JT, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm the guy who emailed saying that I'm not a huge DT nut. I do remember you, man. I do remember you.
Wait, so somebody goes out of their way to email you, go, by the way, I don't like Dream Theater.
Yeah, dude, you know what though?
What?
I mean, how awesome is that? I mean, that's great. Yes, Rufus, I definitely remember. That's awesome. Good to see you, man.
It's just a funny concept to me. I don't know.
Dude, but you know what? People react to it. It's,
No, the fact he's on now is amazing, but I don't know. Like I said, the show never ceases to amaze me.
Doug says it best. Dream Theater has brought us all together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kale, boy, this is not the podcast for you.
Yeah, if you want like quality, insightful content, you should have turned off let's see, what time did we start? An hour 53 minutes
right?
ago, whenever the hell it was.
Well, Rufus says, I found out about you guys because I thought you were very entertaining on discography discussion. So that is my buddy.
God.
Yeah, dude, Discuss Metal Joe, Joseph Wren, awesome show. If you guys haven't checked it out, there's a couple hundred episodes of that. So if you have a favorite band, a metal band of any genre you can imagine, they've done a deep dive into their entire catalog, kind of like exactly what the Two Bobs podcast is doing. So Rufus, yeah, I definitely remember, man. That is very, very cool. So, all right, Brian. Well, we've been bullshitting here for about 2 hours.
Yep.
Why don't we get out of here? So we're going to pick a topic for 2 weeks, and the date, let me think, will be 14th. It'll be the 14th. So we'll be back here on Thursday, November 14th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll figure something to talk about. Excellent nose pick on your part right there.
Yeah.
And again, guys, most importantly, we do have the annual fan hangout show coming up on Friday, December 20th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for those of you guys who are not familiar with the concept, that is the night where Brian and I, we drink more than we did tonight. Admittedly, we had drinks tonight, as we've said. But there will be Gorilla Farts imbibed in on. Is it imbibed in or what? I will imbibe in Gorilla Farts. We'll phrase it that way on that show. And it's the most horrific shot you can ever think of. And Brian introduced me to those about 2 years ago, talking about oh my goodness.
I never thought this would become a thing, but apparently
it is a thing. And as Chastity has coined it, it is Drinking into Infinity. That is the annual fan hangout. Again, that's Friday, December 20th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the whole concept is any of you who want to jump on camera with us and co-host with us, that's the whole point of that night. So again, we have Luke Has Spoken coming on. We have Doug McCauley coming on. We've got Chastity coming on. We've got Cale McLeish coming on. So any of you guys who would like to come on and co-host the show with us, that is the night. And we're just going to have drinks. We're going to talk about anything you want to bring up, musical, anything. We're just basically going to do a random conversation for as long as it goes. One of them lasted, I think, about 3.5 hours, Brian. And we just go and go and go. And it's basically our night to say thank you to all of you guys who have tuned in for, as we just said a minute ago, basically 100 episodes, maybe more, of this goofy shit that we call Talking into Infinity. So,
well, and we do prefer too on the fan hangout if you could either be like cooking some sort of Christmas dish maybe, or like doing some type of a craft maybe that the whole family can do. We could share. That would be, I think that would be nice. Just keep that in mind, guys.
All right. So Cale and Luke are calling me out. Cale says, Chael, who the hell is Chael? And Luke Has Spoken says, Chael is the fusion of Cale and Chastity. Yeah, see, there you go. Cale, why you got to do that? I can ban you again, man. Like I can put you in timeout, Cale. And before we get out of here, Brian, I do have to tell that story super quick. So Cale, God bless him, man. Love you, Cale. He tunes into the Nerf Herder Council as well. And when you're in the chat here on StreamYard, you can click on someone and there's a button or something. It's put user in timeout. And I've never used it. It's always the big joke on the show is obviously banned from the chat. That's how we joke around. Well, my brother AJ didn't understand what put in timeout means. And he was trying to joke with Cale on our last episode and clicked the put in timeout button and it actually boots the user. And I think it's like five minutes, or I don't know how long it is, but they can't comment. They can't do anything. And so he basically completely fucked Cale. And I was like, wait a minute. What did you just do? Like, why would you do that? So poor Cale, man. He got busted by my brother. And yeah. So I apologize again, Cale. So, all right, guys, well, we're going to get out of here. Thank all of you so very much for hanging out, man. Luke Has Spoken, Chastity, Cale, or as I should say, Chael. All you guys, man. JG3, Mike's Musical Rehab. Rufus, great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. All you wonderful people in the chat. Again, as always, you guys keep the show rolling. This is the exact reason why we do the show. We will see you guys again. It will be Thursday, November 14th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And whatever we're talking about, we'll let you know in advance. But other than that, guys, do not forget, Friday, December 20th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the annual fan hangout. Shoot us an email at talkingintoinfinity@gmail.com or send us a Facebook message on our Facebook page and let us know if you would like to jump on camera and co-host with us, and we can talk about anything you want to talk about. Until then, guys, I am your host, John. He is Brian. That was a great outro, Brian.
Well, normally you just say my name and then you just say goodbye. So,
well, I tried to. All right, for all of you people listening on the audio stream, Brian just basically waved. He's an idiot. So I'm John. He's Brian. He's a dummy. And as usual, guys, actually, before we do that, not as usual. Many prayers and much love out to Mike Portnoy. God bless him for the loss of Samantha, man. God bless you for losing your sister. We're all on your side, man. The spirit carries on. Huge hugs from the entire Dream Theater community. And now, as always, guys, Carpe Diem.